Hi, y'all. Where y'all been? I haven't seen you in like forever. I know. I'm sorry. I apologize. Mama apologizes. Life's been crazy. 50+ hour work weeks. The huge. So, but I am here now. Yay. Time for our next tutorial. And if I remember correctly, because it's been a while, I promised I was going to do a tutorial on the chest harness and then also the belt that I did. So I'm going to start with the chest harness and I'm going to show you, here's the finished product. And so it's what went around me and then this strapped around me, and then I've got, it comes through here. I've got a nice clasp for it, and what I'm super proud about this piece is it started as, here it is, I'll try to be prepared, a belt. Just a plain old belt that we grabbed off of Amazon, 20 bucks or less. We got the super long one. I think this one's like 96 inches long because we knew that we were going to be using it for these chest harnesses and it was going to have to be cut. And initially I was like, okay, I'm going to need some help doing this. I don't know exactly what I need to do. Proud mama moment is I basically took the belt, looking at the reference pictures, and just started wrapping myself in this belt using, again, Amazon, just these rings that you would use for, like, you know, back when I was in high school, you had to have like one of these with all your keys, that all the key rings and maybe one key. So anyways, I just started wrapping it. I'm like, okay, it goes behind this way. And before I did any cutting, basically what I did is I just took some of this twine, or not really twine, but this leather cordage, just to hold the pieces in place, so that I can be like, okay, is this gonna work? And it went together. I did it all in one try. I didn't have to, didn't miscut, didn't anything like that. Racing into the house to show Brian, like, look what I did. But it was very cool. And so basically, once I knew what I needed, so here's the different, it's hooked into the different spots here. Then there's this one, it's hooked into the different spots. This is the one that goes in the front. This one goes in the back. And then, again, this one comes around and hooks here. Once I got it all on there, I then nervously made cuts and kept the cordage twine on there while I cut it, so it held it in place. And then once I did that, I took the cordage off, and then using super glue, glued down each of the sides, and then using the cordage again as support, and then also just kind of aesthetically to see, so it looks kind of cool, right? I wrapped it, and then I used some more super glue on the knots to hold it in place. And then for the part that actually connects it to me and holds it on me, once I measured out, like, okay, this is where it folds over, this is where the little clasp, which is, I call it the little heart clasp, but if you can see that, that is what we used. Again, basing things off of the reference photos that we pulled from the game, from the Assassin's Creed game. And then figured out where it went, poked some holes in there to use it so it holds on. And then I just created loops for the extra with some of that same leather that I've been using, just leather scraps from the vest and everything else I needed leather on. And then I sewed them through in here so that they'd hold on. And that's where the harness, if you so want to call it, came together. And it was a very proud moment of mine. The other thing I was going to go over today, since that didn't take a ton of time, was the belt. This beautiful beast right here. And this is made of EVA foam and leather. And how we made that is, again, online, found or bought a template. And then basically what I used for most of the template was just the front for the shape, the front shape. And then I just measured myself so that I knew how long I wanted it. And so first I did this part, and I used 6mm foam. And I did this in 2 pieces because the template itself is in 2 pieces. And so I felt that that would be the best way to do it. So I did the underside one first and created this portion, cut it out of 6mm foam. I wanted it to be thick, but I didn't want to put like 2 layers of 10mm together. That'd be way too thick. And then I also have the thinner, or the smaller one for the smaller portion of the belt. And then again, as well with 6mm foam, cut this out. Now, this didn't have the hole in it yet. It still had this in the middle. I waited until after I drew it onto my 6mm foam to cut this out as a template for this detail. So then using those 2 sections and using my measurements, if you will see I've got the piece for the big one, and then with the measurements I had for my waist, I added on more of the EVA. And the actual belt kind of thins out and wraps around a little bit more. But one was in a Con Crunch. This was made the week of, I believe, or the weekend before. And it's always something that I can redo to make it a little more fancier, but it worked. And then for the small one, I did the same thing. I just added more onto it. And then once I did that, I didn't have to do a bunch of Dremel work because it's going to be covered with leather. But I did just kind of smooth the edges out. And once I did that, then I had glued them all together. So I just had the 2 long pieces that needed to be taken care of. And so I took some of that scrap leather, and if you'll see, the bottom one is as well, but you can't see it just because they're glued they're velcroed together. But I did it in multiple chunks. I found a chunk of leather that would fit for the big one, fit the largest part. And then on here, the chunk of leather goes from here to here. From here to here on the outside one. On the inside one, it goes from about here to here. So using contact cement and some super glue to kind of get the edges that I missed, I glued the initial pieces of leather on. Then I went and I found other pieces of leather that could be used for the arms, the rest of the belt. Glued those on, and then it was more details. I swear, all the details are what is going to kill me. If you'll see, there's some stitching along the sides here, and what I did is using a hole punch that I bought that I used on the leather. I just basically, ruining my hands, went through, punched all the holes on both of them. And then just using this cordage, which I used on a ton of other things for detail, and a very thick upholstery needle, sewed all along the edges on both of them. Then I was trying to figure out how to stick them together. Was I going to glue them together? Was I going to do what or what? And what I ended up doing is, as you can keep hearing me mess with it, I Velcroed it. So that if I do need to adjust it, if I need to make it smaller, if I need to, if the Velcro comes off, it's not going to ruin it much because, I can glue it back on, which is happening in this case. Because, again, it happened the week of cons. So things don't always stick together as they should after the fact. So anyways, I glued the Velcro on both sides, and I did it here, here, and here. And then also to hold it on me, even though I knew that I'd have other belts around me to kind of help support it. Again, more Velcro. And I've got a piece of Velcro for the smaller side, the outside, and then I've got a piece of Velcro for the inside that Velcros together. And then once I had all of that done, I tried it on. The small belt kind of slipped around, and so I put on these belt loops, let's say, and I just used spare leather and just figured out kind of midpoint. It's not perfect, but I did the best, and just put them on as loops so that these can go through. And I also use these loops for the other belts that I was wearing with my costume to go through as well, to keep them from slipping down. Multi-purpose. And then lastly, using that little, I cut this out of the template of the smaller belt, cut it, and this is 2mm foam, and I like to do a lot of my details in 2mm foam. So I cut it out, then I used gold paint and just roughly painted it so that it looked a little beat up. Found the center, and this one I didn't use contact cement since it was so small. I end up using just super glue to glue it on. So just a little bit of spit, bubble gum, some duct tape, and a lot of glue to hold things together. So next, I think I might go over the shield, which I know I did that in my tutorials, my Snapchats, but I want to kind of spend a little more time going over that. So, thank you very much. And toodaloo, y'all.